Hey guys, TRANSCENDING here, and I am so excited to be able to talk about what we're getting ready to talk about. I want to look today at the female narcissist. I have some thoughts that I just want to unpack, and I want to see what you think about it. Stay right there, and then we'll come back and we'll deal with it. Because I believe a man is supposed to take care of his woman. I don't care how much money your woman make. A man is supposed to have his mindset on taking care of his woman. Talk. I mean, this may be a bit crude, but I mean, I don't know no other way to say it. I want to talk about booty calls. Hey man, this is TRANSCENDING, and I am so excited today to be able to deal with this subject, the female narcissist, and just kind of looking at some thoughts that I have about this particular subject. Now, I am not missed on the fact that most of my audience is female. I think the last time I checked on most platforms, I think it's about 90% female. But I also believe that many women can attest to the fact that not only have your lives, in a lot of instances, been negatively impacted by the diabolical male narcissist, but many women can attest to the fact that you've been as fractured or sometimes even more damaged by female narcissist in your life, on whatever level that relationship might have been. There are many women who can attest to the fact that it was another woman who crushed and broke and destroyed her self-esteem and what have you. Now, the world, many times people don't want to accept the idea, which I believe is factual, that most narcissists are men. I believe that, and I believed that even before I understood or began to develop any understanding of what a narcissist is or was. I believe I would always put it in these terms. Men are innately, naturally selfish. And that's not necessarily true, that we are innately selfish. I believe we are conditioned by social rules. I believe that the inequity in gender roles plays a part in the young male child's mind developing in such a way that he becomes toxic and narcissistic. And I believe that society, on the flip side, in most cases, conditions the woman to be an unhealthy, out of balanced empath. Not empathy within the constraints of normal human productive behavior, but empathy to the point that one becomes enslaved to systems that are not in her best interest. So I do believe that. But there are occasions now where we are seeing a rise in female narcissism or female narcissist. And I also believe that's for a few reasons. And I'll share some of that with you in a minute. But the driving forces of a female narcissist, and I must say this as I always do, I'm no therapist, I'm no psychologist, I'm no counselor, I'm just a man, and I'm a pastor, and I'm a human being having a social experience, and I'm kind of observing the world around me. And so this is the platform from which I launch my opinions and my thoughts. None of this is to be taken officially, because I'm no specialist, I'm no expert, for lack of another term. But I believe that the driving forces of a female narcissist are envy, control, and manipulation. Envy, control, and manipulation. She has to be the center of attention by any means necessary. I forget who's writing it was that I was reading. But this particular author said that one of the distinct differences between a male narcissist and a female narcissist, the way society is constructed, is that a male narcissist uses people to reach his goals. The world tells him as a man that because he's a man, he's at the top of the food chain. Whereas, so this writer says that the male narcissist is driven by using people to reach his goals, accomplishing his personal agenda. Whereas the female narcissist is largely driven by using other people to attain positions of power, to somehow break the mold of the woman being subservient, break out of the traditional norm of the woman being in a inferior position socially. And so she uses people to reposition herself at the top of the food chain along with her male narcissistic counterparts. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I thought it was interesting. It's an interesting thought. But the driving forces of a female narcissist are envy, control, and manipulation. She envies people who are at a place where she desires to be. She controls people who can help her to get there, and she manipulates every situation to reposition herself into a higher place. Now, female narcissist, just like male narcissist in general, from what I understand in my studies, in my reading, is that narcissists are not born, they are created. Created through primarily bad parenting. And when you look at the female narcissist, if this is true, if this is entirely true, which I think those that come from the religious or the spiritual disciplines might argue that many narcissists are simply demonic and that some are actually born demonic. But let's just suppose that the scientific is absolutely true. The female narcissists are created through, would be created through things like abandonment, the spoiling of a father or even a mother in some cases, where the daughter is spoiled beyond, anything sensible, and childhood abuse, where the child is in a position where she has to fight for herself, fend for herself. So because no one else in the world is going to protect you, look out for you, make ways for you, open doors for you, you have to look out for number one. And so to a large extent, these are some of the things that begin to generate or create the narcissistic imbalance, disorder in the minds of female narcissists. The first thing I want to look at is what does a female narcissist look like as a mother? And one of the things that I've discovered as a pastor and in just dealing with people, not as a mental health professional, because that I'm not, but as a pastor, and just in dealing with people, I have come upon on more than one occasion, not having a grasp on this thing called narcissism at the time, but I've come upon families where there was or there is a mother, there's a son or sons, and there's a daughter or daughters. And the mother somehow becomes excessively abusive and difficult for the daughters while doting over the son. And I quite often wondered, why is it that the same mother can appear to be, or at least act like she's so compassionate and empathetic towards a son, and yet be so cruel towards a daughter, to the point that the husband and father has to call for a family counseling session. And now as I'm beginning to understand this thing, or, wrap my mind around this thing called narcissism and just this person called the narcissist, could it be that the female narcissist views the daughters as competition? Because if her goal is to win and to manipulate and control the heart of her husband, she then has to view her daughters or daughter as competition, because fathers love their daughters. And then could it be that they look at the son, and I'm really asking a question, I'm not making a statement, I'm asking a question for those of you that may be mental health professionals. Could it be that she looks at the son and views the son as a means of power, that he's going to eventually grow into a strong man, and being that the female narcissist really envies the power that men have, could it be that she views her connection to her son as one day becoming her answer to equalizing her sense of lack of physical power, at least, to that of the male or the dominant male society? I hope I'm making sense. But a narcissistic mother dominates her children, sometimes sons and daughters, through punishing consequences. Watch this. For any hint of independent thinking. Narcissistic mothers want their children to simply function as puppets. They do not want the children to have lives of their own. They want to be able to use the children to whatever extent they need to accomplish their own personal and selfish agenda. This is very real. This is happening in the world every day, where there are mothers that are using their children, many times to the children's destruction, to accomplish her own agenda and her own personal selfish agenda. And as I was contemplating this, just thinking about a female narcissist as a mother, and where could I find a biblical context for such a person, my mind immediately went to Matthew chapter 14, verses 1 through 10, and it reads like this. At that time, Herod the Tetrarch heard of the fame of Jesus, and said unto his servants, This is John the Baptist. He is risen from the dead, and therefore mighty works do show forth themselves in him. For Herod had laid hold on John, and bound him, and put him in prison for Herodias' sake, his brother Philip's wife. For John said unto him, It is not lawful for thee to have her. And when he would have put him to death, he feared the multitude, because they counted him as a prophet. But when Herod's birthday was kept, the daughter of Herodias. Now Herodias was Herod's brother's ex-wife. She divorced Herod's brother, and then Herod married his brother's wife, and John the Baptist was crying out against Herod marrying his brother's own wife. But when Herod's birthday was kept, the daughter of Herodias, this is Herod's niece, the daughter of Herodias and his stepdaughter, the daughter of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod. Now, this wasn't just a dance, this was a highly sexual dance. Whereupon he promised with an oath to give her whatsoever she would ask. And she being, watch this now, listen to the wording, and she being before instructed of her mother, said, Give me here John Baptist's head in a charger. And the king was sorry, nevertheless, for the oath's sake, and them which sat with him at meat, he commanded it to be given her, and he sent and beheaded John the Baptist. So now we see where a mother who has a vendetta against John the Baptist uses her own child to manipulate her husband. But she puts her daughter in a position, basically, essentially, she was prostituting her daughter, because she put her daughter up to dance before Herod in a highly sexual way. And Herod promises to give her whatever she would ask. And then she tells her, ask him for the head of John the Baptist. This is, in my opinion, this is classic, probably to the farthest extreme of what a narcissistic mother looks like and how she behaves. She will sacrifice her children for anything that she thinks will put her in a posture or a place that she desires to be. The second aspect of a female narcissist where we find that they do much damage is in the area of friendships. Put that in quotations. Friendships. Female narcissistic friends are probably, of course, male narcissists are the most detrimental to female population, following the male narcissist from, the romantic to male narcissistic fathers. Following those two very closely would probably be narcissistic friends. Female narcissistic friends never support. They use the relationship to take shots with a smile on their face, but they'll take shots at your self-esteem, and ultimately they are your worst enemy disguised as a friend. In fact, about it, many times female narcissistic friends are the ones that would talk you out of a great relationship with a man. And you'll be wondering, how is it that your relationships keep getting sabotaged or destroyed or falling off? Many times it's the friends that you have around you, or the friend that you have around you, that one you call sister, who really doesn't view you like you view her. You view her like a friend, like a sister, and you love her. She views you as an opportunity for a come up. Now, let me read a little bit. In her group of female friends, the female malignant narcissist scopes out who is a threat. When a woman is narcissistic, she looks at a circle of people and she scopes out who will be a threat to, my dominion, who will rival my rise. And she begins to calculate it in a calculated way. She begins to destruct that individual. The one that she views as smart, the one that she views as beautiful. She develops a quiet and subtle campaign to begin to destroy the character and the self-esteem of that individual. Now, the female narcissist loves women who are just group thinkers and followers. She loves them. You'll see her walking through the mall and she'll have her little group of friends just kind of tailing behind her. Whichever direction she goes, they go, almost like a father leading his family. Whatever she buys, they buy. They want to wear the same thing. She loves that group, and she'll keep them around and she'll use them until there's nothing else to use. But those that she views as equivalent to her, in terms of beauty, in terms of intellect, definitely she views them as being superior, she'll get in their good graces until she gets into a place where she can begin to dismantle their reputation and pull them down on every side that she views as an advantage. Now, when I think about the narcissist, the female narcissist as a friend, though I would not put this particular biblical female into the category of a narcissist, which we don't really know enough about her necessarily to say that she is or was not. But I believe we definitely can conclude from the text that I'm getting ready to read that she at least had a narcissistic episode, like all of us can have. All of us can have these selfish moments where we do things for our best interest and we forget about the interest of others. Normal people recognize that and pull out of it and self-correct. Narcissists don't have the ability to do that. But the biblical character that I pulled up for this particular aspect of the narcissist as a friend, the female narcissist as a friend that is simply using other females to position herself, would be Sarah, the wife of Abraham. And I know that sounds really weird for many of you to hear that, but I'll show you why. In Genesis 16, 1 through 5, it says, "Now Sarah, Abram's wife, bore him no children, and she had an handmaid, an Egyptian whose name was Hagar." She was really a slave. "And Sarah said unto Abram, Behold, now the Lord hath restrained me from bearing or having children. I pray thee, go in unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her." Use her to have the children. "And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarah. And Sarah, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife," or his concubine. "And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarah said unto Abram, My wrong be upon thee. I have given my maid into thy bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. The Lord judge between me and thee." So after Sarah's position is solidified in that she satisfies the desires of her husband through the she uses her female slave as her supply to supply her husband with a child. Now she says, she's looking at me strange, she despises me. But the reality is that she was a slave and Sarah was the master. There was nothing that Hagar could have done to Sarah, quite honestly. Hagar knew that and Sarah knew that. But the reality is that there's a narcissistic episode that is developing here. And if you go to Genesis 21, 8 through 11, you'll see it play out. And of course, read the full context, read the chapters between. Now, Sarah didn't think she could have children, so she used her slave girl as her supply to provide her husband with what he desired. But now, lo and behold, God miraculously gives Sarah a child, or she conceives, and she has a son by the name of Isaac. Hagar's son was named Ishmael. And in Genesis 21, 8 through 11, it says, "And the child grew and was weaned." This is talking about Isaac now, after he's born to Sarah. "And Abraham made a great feast the same day that Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, which she had borne unto Abraham, mocking. Wherefore she said unto Abraham, Cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. And the thing was very grievous in Abraham's sight because of his son." So she used her, and when her personal position was solidified, she disposed of her. This happens quite a lot in female relationships, where you'll have a friend that you'll call sister, and when she's used you sufficiently, she will then dispose of you, almost like a man, a lover that disposes of you without any real explanation as to why. She's used you, now she's done with you. So female narcissists make horrible friends, make poor mothers, make horrible friends. And then the third thing is that, I only have 4, the third aspect of the female narcissist, where she shows up or proves to be a challenge for society, would be in relationships with men. The female narcissist as a lover is constantly manipulating. She's constantly manipulating the emotions of her partner to generate the reaction that she needs, even if that reaction is detrimental, to her partner's best interest. So they make horrible, horrible girlfriends. They make horrible wives because they're constantly pressing buttons to create a reaction that satisfies something that they need or desire, long for in their diabolical soul. They manipulate and control their partner to the point, watch this, of even divorcing him from his own principles. When a man gets tied up with a female narcissist, unless he's a narcissist himself, if she's feeding on a normal, well-adjusted, everyday man, she will press that man's buttons and play upon that man's heart until she divorces him from his very principles. He'll find himself doing everything he never said he would do, trying to please this person that is not satisfiable. Now, I believe when we look at, when we look at the life of Jezebel, in 1 Kings 16:31 through 33, it says, "And it came to pass, as if it had been a light thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, and he took to wife Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Zidonians." These words are something else. "And went and served Baal and worshipped him. And he reared up an altar for Baal in the house of Baal, which he had built in Samaria. And Ahab, the husband of Jezebel, made a grove, and Ahab did more to provoke the Lord God of Israel to anger than all the kings of Israel that were before him." Well, when you read the full context, you'll discern that he did all of these things that were against God because he had a wife by the name of Jezebel that constantly manipulated and controlled him. When you see a woman that controls a man to the point that, he doesn't even have an opinion. He has, it's like he's lost his manhood. He doesn't even have any pants anymore. And she leads him around like a child. You are looking at a female narcissist that has dominated a man's life. And it's important for you to know this because in some cases, this person is coming after your sons. You need to be able to, inform your sons what a female narcissist looks like. A woman that would manipulate and manage your life entirely. My God. Now, as a lover or in a relationship or marriage with a man, the female narcissist will also use the occasion of the man's love to create jealousy, because she loves to be the center of attention. Remember now, she doesn't really love anybody but herself. She uses everybody to supply whatever it is she needs to elevate her position. And so sometimes she'll use the man's sincere love for her to create jealousy. And sometimes she'll wreak havoc in social circles, in society, in organizations, between her man and others that really don't have a problem with her or him. But she creates this because she loves to see the rage of her husband or her man when he becomes jealous. And if you look in Genesis 39, these are a lot of verses, but I'm trying to give you a biblical perspective on what this looks like. In Genesis 39, in fact, I won't read all of these because I don't want to bore you, but write it down. Genesis 39, 10 through 20, I'll tell you the story. The young man by the name of Joseph is a righteous young man, a man of God. And he's sold into the house of a slave master by the name of Potiphar. And Potiphar has a wife. And while Potiphar is away, Potiphar's wife is coming on to Joseph, but Joseph loves God, and he also honors Potiphar because Potiphar put him in a position of being over everything that pertained to him. And so Joseph continues to turn her down, which does what? Creates a narcissistic injury in this female narcissist. And so one day she's reaching for Joseph to try to lure him into sex, and he's pulling away, but she pulls his garment off of him. And so she takes the occasion of having that garment to say to the servants, when they come back in, she puts on this big act and she says, he brought this slave into our house and he tried to rape me. And then she brings Potiphar in. He tried to rape me. Look, I have his garment in my hand. And nothing but God prevented Potiphar from killing Joseph. Instead of killing him, Potiphar put Joseph in jail. Potiphar was married to a female narcissist, and she manipulated the occasion. Since it was not going the way she wanted it to go, she used it to create jealousy in the heart of her husband. And then finally, female narcissists are very problematic in a work setting, especially in a setting where advancement, if it's one of those flatline type jobs, she may or may not rear her head. But if it's in a situation where people are elevated and paid more for producing, she's ruthless. As a coworker, a female narcissist will build you up with the intention of tearing you down. She seeks to prove she is by far the smartest in the room. Now, where she becomes extremely dangerous in a corporate setting is to men, because men usually occupy the positions that she desires to have. So she'll flatter and she'll build him up and she'll build him up, and she may even, lead him on and then use the occasion to spin it in whatever direction she wants to go to cause him to have a great fall. Because as co-workers, they are horrible to coexist with. She will take your ideas and present them as though they are her own. She'll do that to men. She'll do that to sisters that are rising with her. She'll get all of your ideas at lunch, and she'll go into the room and she'll present your ideas as though they are her own. And when you get irate, she'll look at you as though, what's wrong with you? Why are you so emotional? You're a threat to the environment. Now, this was what I'm getting ready to read to you now, and I'm done, is the advice that comes from another source. And he says here, if you are dealing with a female narcissist in a professional context, stick to email or small talk that can be easily documented. In other words, keep a paper trail. Once you discover that you're in a work setting with a female narcissist, keep a paper trail. Do not reveal personal information in the early stages of a budding relationship that can later be used against you. Learn to keep your thoughts to yourself, which is just a great practice in any respect, until you really know who you're talking to. Never let people have the full access to all that is in your heart. So I was looking at that and I thought it was interesting. The female narcissist and what she looks like, how she behaves. Hey, again, I say, I'm no mental health professional. So if there's some things that I'm certain that there's a lot that can be added to this. If I missed something on this, if my thoughts are off base, please let me know. If you think that I'm thinking right, I'm on the right track, let me know as well. But I'm finding it very, very interesting, and it's helping a lot of people. Just to have me as a pastor from the spiritual community or the spiritual disciplines to acknowledge the fact that this does exist, and to be able to find a biblical context for it, I'm finding it to be very therapeutic for a lot of people. So I want you to know I love you. If this is your kind of thing, I need you to subscribe to my, just subscribe to my channel and share it on all of your social media platforms. And go to my email and go to my website, rcblakes.com, and sign up for my email list. You know exactly where I'm coming with my conferences, my meetings, when I'm in your area speaking for other people. Hey man, I have a lot going on, and I just want you to know I love you. But before I let you go today, let me pray for you. Father, I thank you for just the revelation of this message. And God, as I have done my best to articulate what you've put on my heart for this topic today, God, let it minister to somebody. Let it open someone's eyes. And God, I thank you now, if someone's in the grip of this kind of an individual, I thank you for freedom. I thank you for deliverance. I thank you for freeing their minds, God. I dismiss all of the confusion that this spirit tries to bring. And God, I thank you for clarity. I thank you for peace. I thank you for restoration. Well, I've enjoyed this time with you. Got a little long, but I've enjoyed this time with you. I love you. And just know that Lisa and I are praying for you. And if you're ever in the New Orleans area, come and visit us at New Home Family Worship Center. If you're in the Houston area, you can visit us at the New Home Family Worship Center of Houston. Our church's website is comehometonewhome.org. I'd love to have you visit with us if you're in the area. God bless you until next time. You're on top and you're going higher. God has more in store for you. God bless you. Father wound is simply an emotional void in a person's life due to the fact that their father was either physically absent or physically present but emotionally disconnected. And as a consequence, there was an arrested development. The person grows into adulthood, but there's still a little kid on the inside of them that's longing for the affirmation of a father. The father wound produces things like poor choices in relationships. It produces things like irresponsibility with finances because one is trying to subsidize for low self-esteem. It produces all kinds of ills that we see played out on the canvas of the adult child. Transcending the Father Wound is a program that is centered around perspective, and that perspective is biblical. I endeavor to bring you into a biblical perspective as it pertains to your particular predicament.